Hola, bon dia. Carl Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal radio show and podcast on the 2nd of January 2020. First show of the year, folks. So, Feliz Ano Novo to you. Hope you have a great 2020. If being in Portugal is part of your plan, then stay tuned for this new schedule. Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays and Fridays is when I'll be here on Facebook Live for the foreseeable future. Seems to be the best way of doing this. And each of those days, the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday. Wednesdays I do something slightly different, which I'll tell you about another time. But Mondays and Tuesdays, Thursdays and Fridays, I will be here doing the Good Morning Portugal radio show and podcast for expats, explorers and dreamers. So if you're here in Portugal already, great way of keeping in touch and building your community over here and enhancing, I hope, your experience of being in Portugal. If you're thinking of being here, great thing to tune into as well and subscribe to the podcast, because every day we look at a little bit of language, we look at a property, and I like to find quirky and interesting properties. There's such a fantastic range of properties as you'd expect in a country of this size for different budgets and tastes, but I like to try and find something a little bit, I do these meditations, Munson's Meditation Made Simple, and I posted one up on a fabulous app called Insight Timer. And somebody said it's the quirk that makes it work, which I've taken as a good thing. And that's the kind of vibe that I've got going on for the property here on the Good Morning Portugal radio show and podcast as well. It's the quirk that makes it work. So we're looking for nice, quirky properties, interesting, very basic things, people who want to live in tiny homes, and that's what we've got for you today. A very interesting, a tiny home development, I suppose, like a mini estate in the making, and a tourism possibility and a business possibility, as well as somewhere to live, which is what we've got for you today. Right up to the one we featured in Basarco the other day, that fabulous mansion of a place up on the up past Luso, up into the hills of Basarco. Really top-notch luxury property. So everything, anything and everything. If you've got a property for sale, or you're looking for something, just give me a bit of a steer on that. There is a social community group for Good Morning Portugal as well. You can find it as a group as well as this page. And there is the website, goodmorningportugal.com. So do stay in touch and let me know how I can help you here in Portugal. I'd like to see myself as your man here in Portugal, helping you out with your digging and dreaming over here in this wonderful country. So the news story today that I want to delve into. I'm looking at Sky News. Normally I look at the Portugal news, which is the English-speaking, English language news source here in Portugal. But I'm going back to quite an old story. This dates back to May of last year. I can say last year now, can't I, for 2019. But it's this story of olive picking machines, and this is the headline, that suck up and kill thousands of birds. Trees are stripped of olives, and the birds resting in them are also sucked into the machines, researchers have warned. Now, I'm mentioning this because I think it's ongoing here in Portugal. I believe it's been outlawed in Spain now, but it's still happening in Portugal. Hundreds of thousands of legally protected birds are killed in southern Europe every year after being sucked out of trees and into machines which are harvesting olives. During the winter months, from October to January, millions of birds from Northern Europe, including the UK, flock to the Mediterranean countries to escape the cold weather. I think we knew that. We learned that when we were kids, didn't we? Flying south. It is thought, and this is the shocker to me, and this is something that we can really do something about in all sorts of ways, but maybe it's a little bit of a Good Morning Portugal campaign for the year for 2020. It's something we can all possibly get involved in and put our names to. But it's thought that 96,000 birds die every year in Portugal alone as a result of harvesting for olive production during the nighttime. France and Italy also carry out the practice, but specific numbers are not known. And there is a picture of a terrifying-looking machine that I think is the Hoover, the olive Hoover, that is sucking all these birds into the machine whilst it's picking olives. And I use the term picking very loosely because it's just like sheer force and terror, like a scene from what's that movie? Avatar. The Andalusian government in Spain, where an estimated 2.6 million birds used to be vacuumed up annually, has now stopped the practice. So well done, Andalusia, and the Spanish politicians there who've decided that 2.6 million birds is not a sacrifice worth paying for cheap olive oil. And that's the deal here, isn't it? The reason there are these big methods of production is to keep costs down. And, that has to come into how we respond to this. Other big olive-producing countries should follow their lead, say researchers. The problem of birds being vacuumed from the bushes is on a catastrophic scale, according to the findings reported in the journal Nature. Birds such as robins, goldfinches, greenfinches, warblers and wagtails are among those that suffer the biggest casualties. It's believed there are around 100 dead birds in each harvest trailer during a nighttime operation. Must be grisly work, that, mustn't it? Just like emptying out the olives, and there's all these sort of bird carcasses in there. The trees are stripped of the fruits at night because cooler temperatures help to preserve the olives' aromatic flavours. Well, that's interesting. But in the dark, there was less chance of the birds spotting the machines because they're sleeping. What a terrifying death. You're a little robin having a snooze in a tree, and then this apocalyptic Hoover machine comes and sucks you out of your slumber. Martin Harper from the RSPB told Sky News, "We do know that sustainably managed olive growers, I think, are not only possible, but very beneficial to wildlife, and we need to encourage those." We certainly do. He added, more generally across Europe, we know that there are 421 million fewer birds today than there were 30 years ago. Sorry, this is Sky News poor writing. I'm trying to make sense of it, but thank you to them for this story. Agriculture is the biggest driver of change, which is why the common agricultural policy needs to be reformed to ensure public money supports farmers to provide safe space for nature on their farms. So, what might we do about that? Yes, got it, Shmriti. I will look at the weather specifically in Mata Dorena tomorrow, okay, and we'll keep that on the radar for you as well. I take it you're living there now. You should tell us more about Mata Dorena. I know Caldas Dorena, but I don't know Mata Dorena. So what can we do about these terrible machines that are sucking the olives off the trees at night to preserve their aromatic goodness, but killing 96,000 birds alone in Portugal every year? I would suggest that we take a consumer approach to this, and we buy local, and we buy well-provenanced olive oil. You know, I buy olive oil from a neighbour, and it's probably twice the price of what it is in the supermarket. But we're talking about quite a big amount, 5 litres, and it lasts a long time. And each time I use it, I think, wow, I'm guessing no birds. I know no birds have been harmed in the making of this olive. Well, certainly not on the scale that's mentioned in the article I've just read. And it's been picked by my neighbours. It's been processed locally. That's got to make sense, hasn't it? And, you know, obviously the bitter part of that pill is the cost. But, you know, the cost is hidden. Anyway, if you don't pay that cost when you're buying your olive oil, your grandchildren or the birds are paying for it. So I think it's a consumer responsibility matter. I hope to talk about it more with a wonderful chap who I've lost in my research, but he is an olive oil sommelier based in Portugal, and he does oil tasting courses and is really into the provenance and provision and the ethical trail of olive oil production in this country. So I want to speak to that guy or anyone else who does that, and let's please buy local olive oil, as tempting as it is when you go into the big supermarkets to buy 5 litres for a knockdown price. But the price that's being paid, not by you, is being paid by the birds as they're sucked out of the trees in their slumbers. Another thing I thought, and I'd love to hear your views on this, maybe we can talk about it more in the Good Morning Portugal community group, but another thing we could do, do you remember, this is some time ago now, probably 20 or 30 years ago, I was aware of when the tuna fishing industry was killing dolphins, and there was a similar sort of uproar or awareness raising about this. And what happened was that on the label of tuna was dolphin friendly. This wasn't tuna friendly, obviously, but it was dolphin friendly. And this is something that we could do for olive oil as well, right? We could have bird friendly harvested olive oil. And it's pretty obvious, isn't it? And the problem with these things, of course, is to go into that certification process and the administration of all that adds costs. And, you know, we can do that, and that would be quite a good thing, and it would keep it in people's minds. It's one of the things we could do. But the most obvious thing is to vote with your feet and your wallet, right? Talk to your neighbours, find out where to get the local olive oil. I think eating local products is really important for all sorts of reasons, from the very economical, gritty, everyday reasons, right through to the spiritual reasons of being in tune with what is around you in nature, and that being part of the communal harvest and enjoying that as a community. So there's so much to be said. I can't think of a bad reason, apart from the economic one, of eating local produce. It is more expensive sometimes, but like I say, the cost has to be felt somewhere. If it's not felt by you immediately in your pocket, chances are the cost will be moved elsewhere. That's how our capitalist system works, right? Things cost an amount, and if it's not a direct cost to you, it will be a cost to someone else, in slave labor, child labor, poor working conditions, whatever. So let's have a big view on this. And it's an easier thing to do here in Portugal. Let's be fair. If you scratch the surface, you will get access to local produce and go to the market. Speak to local people, go to local shops, and do the right thing, folks. So there we go. That may well be a campaign for 2020 with Good Morning Portugal, is to buy local, and let's see what we can do about stopping these birds being hoovered up whilst they try and get a good night's kip. Having faced that long flight from Northern Europe to Southern Europe to find themselves resting in a tree, only to be blooming well vacuumed up by a massive agro-business machine. Anyway, let me know what you think about that.